Thank you, everyone, and good evening. It's my privilege to, as chairman of the board of the Somerville Chamber of Commerce, to welcome you to the 71st annual dinner and to recognize a few celebrated guests. We have Mayor Joe Curtatone. And actually, I know these are wonderful people, but if we can, let me introduce each one before we applaud, because we're on a schedule. Mayor Emeritus Jean Brune. Is former Mayor Dorothy Kelly Gay here? I didn't see her. Okay, back here, great. President of the Board of Aldermen, Bill White. Alderman Jack Conley, I didn't get a chance to see him either. Alderman Mark Niedergang. Over here, thank you. And Alderman Katyana Ballantyne, I know I saw her. Back there also. Anyone else that I didn't catch? All right, great. Other than thank you, yes. Which leads us into our other celebrated guest, leading off with our keynote speaker, Governor Charlie Baker. Governor Baker has been making Massachusetts a great place to live, work, and raise a family while delivering a customer service-oriented state government that is as hardworking as the people of the Commonwealth. Upon taking office, Governor Baker worked to close 2 budget gaps worth more than $2 billion without raising taxes, while bolstering local aid for our schools, communities, investing in more reliable public transportation system, and prioritizing funds to fight the opioid and heroin epidemic. Governor Baker supported robust business sectors by reforming the Commonwealth's regulatory environment, holding the line on taxes, and advancing efforts to rein in energy costs. And as many of you might know, he had a very successful career prior to that in both government and business, serving as cabinet secretary to both William Weld and Paul Cellucci governors, and leading Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare as CEO from the brink of bankruptcy to one of the nation's highest ranked healthcare providers. On a personal note, my favorite story of Governor Baker, besides seeing him, I walked with him the Bunker Hill Day Parade and watching him return footballs from the revelers watching the parade, was at a private party of supporters where someone asked a 5-part question that seemed like they were all zingers. And rather than give sound bites, as most politicians do, I don't remember if it was Mark Twain who said, politicians mince their words, it makes it easier if they have to eat them later. Governor Baker, I've never seen him do that. He answered all 5 parts in a better order than they were asked to get to all the points in detail from a base of knowledge and clarity and just wanting to convey the concepts rather than sound bites. And I said, wow, this is the guy I want running my Commonwealth. So I've seen that happen every time I've seen him since. He was raised in Needham, and with his wife Lauren, they reside in Swampscott, proud parents of 3 children, Charlie, AJ, and Caroline. And he's also the recipient of the Chamber's Powderhouse Award for Excellence in Economic Development. Please welcome Governor Charlie Baker to the stage.
Please sit. I'm all this between you and dinner, and I got a lot to say. So let me first of all congratulate all those who ran yesterday. And whether you won or lost, I congratulate you, because having been on both sides of the win-loss column in elections over the course of my career, I really appreciate the experience that comes with running for office, and I admire those who are willing to throw their hat into the ring and take all that comes with it, which sometimes can be wildly exciting and entertaining, and other times can be, well, let's just call it kind of an ego shatterer. And Mayor, I got to say, 73% of the vote. Pretty good number. So what I thought I might do is just talk a little bit about 4 big themes that I hope have been part of the way the Baker-Polito administration has tried to operate over the course of the last few years. And I will toss in some thoughts and comments along the way that have to do with things that have involved our time and our work here in Somerville. The first was, Karen and I always said we wanted to be a bipartisan administration. And if you look at the folks we put into our cabinet, they're Republicans, they're Democrats, they're independents. And I think a lot of people were kind of surprised by that, but we simply wanted to find what we thought was the best person for the job. So when our first appointment was announced, which was Jay Ash, who's a Democrat, former city manager from Chelsea, as Secretary of Housing and Economic Development, a whole bunch of people say, well, why didn't you pick like a business person? And I said, because it would take a business person a really long time to figure out how the wheels work, how the government operates, and what the possibilities are, and how the programs work. And I said, with somebody like Jay, you get a guy who was a city manager of a gateway city for 15 years, and over the course of that 15 years did $1 billion of economic downtown and housing development, and helped take that place from very much still on the on what I would call the edge, to a community that was clearly moving in a positive forward direction. And he would be the sort of person, because of the work he'd done there, who could bring that skill set to help other communities achieve their objectives going forward. And I got a little bit of head scratching on that one, and then I was trying to find a transportation secretary, and I was complaining that I just couldn't find anybody who I thought really understood how much work we needed to do there. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and he said, well, do you know Stephanie Pollack? And I said, I don't know her. I mean, I know of her, because when she was at the Conservation Law Foundation and I was working for Bill Weld and Paul Salucci, she sued me about 11 times. And they said, well, you should call her up. She'd be, I think, you guys would hit it off. She'd be really great. And I literally hung up the phone and I thought about that one for a couple days. And my initial reaction was, this will be the shortest conversation I ever have. But what the heck? And so I called her up, and good for her, she agreed to come meet with me. And we both thought it was going to be one of those 5-minute meetings. Hi, it's very nice to meet you. You seem like a really nice person. See ya. But I'm telling you, within 15 minutes of the start of that conversation, I was absolutely convinced that she was the right person for the job. We talked for about an hour and a half, and as she was leaving, I said, you need to come back and talk to the Lieutenant Governor elect, but I got to tell you, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if we offer you this job, all my friends are going to kill me. And Stephanie looked at me and right back and said, if I take it, all my friends are going to kill me. And we think we both managed to accomplish our objective there. But the point here was, campaigns are contests, we all get that, but in the end, when you're building an administration, putting together a cabinet, what you really want to do are find people who you believe bring the right set of life, personal, and professional experiences to the task, and have the capacity to recognize and understand that most of the time, you're going to be working with people who have a lot of different points of view, and the more capacity you've had to actually walk in other people's shoes as you go about doing your work, the more likely you are to be successful in working with them. And I know that, having talked to Joe and to other mayors, having somebody like Jay Ash as secretary, having somebody like Carolyn Kirk, who's a former mayor of Gloucester, as undersecretary, and sort of the chief lead with Karen Polito on the Seaport Council. We have 74 seaport coastal communities in Massachusetts. Having somebody who actually is the mayor of one of those working on those issues is an incredibly powerful tool for us as an administration where we're trying to help people succeed. And fundamentally for me, it also just all comes down to the way I was brought up. My mother, God rest her soul, was a Democrat. My dad is a Republican. They canceled each other out for 60 years. I remember talking to my mom was too sick to vote in 14, but in 2010, I remember saying to her, so Mom, is this going to be the time that you and Dad vote for the same person? Because I'm on the ballot. And she looked at me and she said, well, son, it is a secret ballot. And I, to this day, don't know what she did. But the point is, our founders had a very simple idea in mind, which was there were a whole bunch of forms of government they could create. They chose to create a really complicated and kind of messy one. And the reason they did that was They had big issues with the whole idea of unilateral authority, and they wanted to create a structure and a process that would require you to find a way to work with people you didn't always agree with if you wanted to accomplish anything, and created a lot of minority rights to go along with majority opportunity. And the message that I have always taken from that has been that we should celebrate the fact that there are a lot of points of view in most conversations and recognize that it's up to us to find the common ground. It's very easy to sit on the edges and throw stones, but if you truly want to be successful and you want to create progress and opportunity, you got to be willing to recognize that, you know, you're my foe today, my friend tomorrow, my foe the day after, my friend the day after, depending upon what the issue is, and to recognize that that's the way it works. And I think one of the things Karen and I take tremendous pride in, and also a lot of gratitude, is we have very good working relationships with our colleagues in local government. We have good working relationships with our colleagues in the legislature on both sides of the aisle. And I think at a point in time when it's very hard to create dialogue in public life, here in Massachusetts, I think we've managed to do that pretty successfully. People treat each other with respect. They get the fact that you can disagree without being disagreeable, and most people come to the table most of the time recognizing that if we're debating, it's usually about means and not about ends, and that most people are trying to simply do what they think is in the best interest of the folks that they're serving or representing. And I'll tell you, this day and age, that's quite an accomplishment. The second thing we talked a lot about was strong communities. And I'm a former member of my local Board of Selectmen. Karen's a former member of her local Board of Selectmen. There are 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. We love them all the same. Although tonight Somerville's getting a little, never mind. But our point of view is very simple, which is most people, when they think about how things are going in Massachusetts, that's an abstract question. The question they really, when you ask them that question, the way they answer that is they talk about how things are going in their neighborhood, how things are going in their community, how things are going in their household. That's the way most people answer that question. And if you don't spend your time in state government trying to figure out how to create opportunities for communities to succeed, then you really don't understand how this works and what matters to people and the way we should be thinking about operating as a Commonwealth. And whether it's our Community Compact program, which was our way of creating a voluntary program for cities and towns to work collaboratively with state government on best practices, which when we started this, it was completely voluntary. Nobody had to play. We gave them a big menu of best practice opportunities and said, if there's anything on here you want to work on, pick it. And we'll be happy to give you technical advice and support to make sure you get it done. You'll get better, we'll get better, we'll all be better off. And here we are, 3 years later, and there are, not quite 3 years, there are 315 communities out of 351 that have signed up to work on at least one, and all told, there are probably 750 best practices that people have been working on over the course of the past few years. And that whole process actually led to a very significant piece of legislation, which is boring if you're not a local official, but matters a lot if you are, which was the Municipal Modernization Act, which was over 100 sections of state law that have been in place in many cases for 50 years that often got in the way of cities and towns' ability to effectively do their job. And we were able to work with the legislature to get that passed, and I'll tell you something, we had over 100 communities show up for the bill signing on that one. Nobody was getting any money. There were no checks being handed out, but there were so many people who really felt this was a huge opportunity for them to improve the way they served their community that they made the trek into Boston, joined us at the State House, and participated in the signing ceremony and cheered mightily. And the Mass Municipal Association called it the single most important piece of municipal government reform in the past 50 years. And I think in many ways that's kind of the way we approach this. We've tried to be pretty aggressive working with our colleagues in the legislature on creating a reliable and dependable source of unrestricted local aid over the past few years. We've done the same thing with respect to education funding in Chapter 70, which every year we've managed to significantly exceed the funding formula, and this past year incorporated a new standard with respect to technology into the formula itself. And generally speaking, the reason we decided to significantly increase the MassWorks program, which is the single best program we have with the most flexibility to help cities and towns make investments in their own communities, whether it's in downtown development or housing development or economic development generally, is because MassWorks is a great program that we have the ability to help people stitch great projects together. And in Somerville in particular, it's turned out to be a great tool for us to partner with you folks on a variety of economic development projects. And it's also why we expanded the state's housing investment by about 20% on an annual basis. It's $1 billion over the course of the next 4 years. And that too came about as a result of our desire to see if we couldn't find better and more ways to collaborate and work with folks to help them build strong communities from one end of Massachusetts to the other. The third piece is obviously a strong economy. And we've been focused on that in a number of ways. I'll throw up several. One is to both continue to reduce our carbon footprint, continue to lead the nation in energy efficiency, and continue to do what we can to create reliable, renewable energy supplies. And again, on a bipartisan basis, working with our colleagues in the legislature, we passed major legislation on both hydropower, for which there's currently an RFP out and people are bidding on that, and offshore wind, the offshore wind piece, by the time that's completed, will be the first and largest and most significant offshore wind operation on the East Coast of the United States. And that's the Greentown Lab folks clapping in the back there. Thank you. But I think in many ways, that in particular is a huge piece of how we sort of lean into the future with respect to the way we treat and deal with one of the most important issues we and others are going to face, which is what's our energy supply going to look like, and what are we going to do to make sure that it's as renewable and as sustainable and as clean as we can possibly make it. The two other things I would mention with respect to this, we've been very aggressive about supporting a number of existing initiatives that we believe work. And one in particular is the Life Sciences Initiative, which we currently have a reauthorization of the Life Sciences bill pending before the legislature. It's about a $500 million reauthorization over the course of 3 years. I'm pretty sure it will probably, it's funny, those big economic development reauthorizations or new authorizations, they tend to pass about 6 minutes, either right before or right after the end of the session. So I'm not expecting that one to get done until the session gets very close to the end, but our expectation is that sometime around next June or July, we'll probably have a significant amount of new authorization that we can use to invest in our life sciences community. And the other piece that I think has turned out to be a really terrific program for us is our Capital Skills Grant Program, which for the most part has been investments in vocational and technical schools, community colleges, and other skill building organizations in local communities. And the reason that one matters, over and over again you hear from people on the employer side about the fact that I can't find enough people with the skills I need to fill the jobs that are out there. And at the same time, we have a whole bunch of folks who are in the skill building space who in many cases are working with equipment that is not quite what it needs to be to provide people, kids, adults, with the skills that they need to succeed in today's workplace. And by creating this program and issuing these grants, which typically go to educational, as I said, voc tech schools, community colleges, local skill building institutions, and having these grants go to them so that they can either expand an existing program, invest in a new program, or build on a program that has turned out to be enormously successful. The only thing they got to do is bring employers to the table who say, if you do this, we would love to hire people coming out of those programs. And we've done about $45 million worth of these and across the Commonwealth, and they've turned out to be game changers for a lot of the folks who are in the skill building business in Massachusetts. And at a point in time when we have about 200,000 open jobs right now in the Commonwealth, continuing to invest in what I would describe as that skill building initiative is a huge part of ultimately how we turn out to be successful and provide people with opportunity that they need. The other thing we spend a lot of time on is public transportation. And, you know, we kind of came into the GLX project somewhere in the middle, and I'm sure someday it will be a wonderful soap opera. But what I would say to all of you tonight is we got a ton of really important collaboration from the mayor and the folks in Somerville. We got a ton of collaboration from the folks in Cambridge. We got a ton of collaboration from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. Did a lot of work to try to figure out a way to make this thing fit into the federal framework that was necessary to get the project funded. And while I really can't say too much about it tonight, what I would say to all of you is I think this is going to make for a really interesting holiday season, this particular project. And it's been, the mayor knows, this one has been a tremendous amount of work to get it to the point where we are literally, and by the way, Congressman Mike Capuano has been a stalwart from day one on this project and a real asset both here and in Washington in helping to help us sort of push this project along. And I think from our point of view, it's a really exciting opportunity to do something really special along that corridor, and we're very excited about it. The other thing I would just say quickly is about the T. We'll probably spend this year about $700 and some odd million, $710 million on the state of good repair, which is a very boring word, but speaks to what I would describe as sort of the core system. Signals, switches, tracks, infrastructure, third rail, power systems, electronics, all that. That'll be more than twice what we spent in any of the previous 5 years on the state of good repair. And I don't get to cut a lot of ribbons with this. There aren't a lot of really cool events that come with it. But if you want to have a great 21st century public transportation system, you have to invest in your core system. There was a really interesting op-ed in the New York Times about 2 months ago by Rahm Emanuel, who's the mayor of Chicago. And the thrust of it was, this is why the Chicago Transit Authority works, okay? And when you read the story, and it does. I mean, I went to school in Chicago, my wife's from Chicago. That system works. And when you read that story, he basically said, what we focused on was the really boring, not terribly exciting investments in our core system. Over and over again, when people would try and pull us into the shiny balls, we kept coming back to the core system. And so by the time we get out a year or two from now, we'll probably have spent $2 billion plus or minus on our way to spending about $4 billion on the core system. The new cars on the red line and the orange line will start arriving next spring. And you start taking a look at what this thing is going to look like if we actually pull this all off over the course of the next couple of years. And you will have, finally, a transportation system and a transit system that starts to look like a 21st century system. But you can't run a 21st century transportation system or a 21st century public transportation system when everything is more than 50 years old. I mean, I remember during the snowstorms in 2015, at one point I was having a conversation with, it's probably more than a conversation, with Stephanie Pollock, who was about 4 days into the job at that point, poor thing. And I was complaining about the red line cars. And she said, do you remember the blizzard of '76? And I said, yeah, sure. Shoveled the driveway like 100 times. Why? She said, you know those red line cars? Same cars that were running in the blizzard of '76. And that was her way of saying to me, you're dealing with a system that's older than your parents in many respects, and desperately needs the kind of core system investment that it hasn't gotten for a really long time. The new trains are coming, the signals are coming, the switches are coming, the power systems are coming. And one of the great things about all that is once you get that stuff in place, you can double the capacity of both the red line and the orange line. And the green line trains will be coming behind that, because you're no longer dealing with a 5-minute spread between trains, which is what you have to do now, because again, the whole thing is mechanical and it's old. You can start doing the trains in 2.5-minute increments, which again basically means you can double how much capacity you move through the system during rush hour. I apologize, the TI could go on for hours on, but I won't do that to you, except to say that, believe me, we get how important it is. And the final thing I'll just say is we really wanted to focus on follow-through and execution, just making government work, especially in situations and circumstances where it needed to. And I'll just give you 2 examples. One is there were 1,500 homeless families in hotels and motels when we took office. This always bothered me a lot, mostly because those hotels and motels were typically far away from the support systems and, in many cases, the schools that those kids went to. And just the whole, these are not glamorous places, okay? They're usually one room, sometimes with a hot plate, most of the time without one, no public space in many cases, certainly no outdoor play space, and you're talking about families in these. And I basically said, we got to find a way to get these folks back into the communities they're from in a more permanent and predictable living situation so that they can have the kind of life that the rest of us take for granted. And so goal number 1, let's see if we can't figure out a way to help people avoid becoming homeless in the first place. Because what had been happening historically was people became homeless and then the Commonwealth put them in a hotel or a motel and they stayed there for quite a while. And you put a kid in one of those for 7 months, 8 months, you've basically blown away a school year. And so we started talking to the community development corporations, to the public housing authorities, to other folks who were closer to this and said, can't we create some sort of an early warning system so that if you know somebody's on the edge here, we can come up with a way to either help them stay where they are or find some other solution for them that's in the community so that they don't literally have to start their life all over again a year later. And that turned out to be a pretty effective strategy. And we found solutions, in many cases, that worked for people so that they could stay in the community that they were in, or even in many cases in the place they were in. Because in many situations and circumstances, these were folks who had a tough, rough go, but with help, they could find a way to basically continue to be, in most cases, in the place they were already in. And then the second thing we did was start trying to work with the folks who were in the hotels and motels and saying, how can we help you find a way back to the community that you're from? Now, the housing market didn't get any cheaper. And it wasn't like suddenly because that was a big thing I always heard, was the housing market's so expensive, you'll never figure out a way to get these people out of hotels and motels. Well, there's about 40 families in hotels and motels at this point in Massachusetts. 40, and almost all of them in many cases are there because that, in many respects, is a better solution for them because of some of the issues some of their kids have. In many cases, it's specialized than it would have been to have them in a more traditional housing setting. Now, no one pays a lot of attention to that. But from my point of view, there's a whole bunch of families who are no longer pinballing all over eastern, central, and western Mass. Many of whom are in really tough shape to begin with and didn't deserve that. Instead, with a ton of collaboration, again, with a lot of our colleagues in local government, we found an answer for those folks that worked. The final thing I'll mention is the work we did on the Health Connector. We were getting 1,000 phone calls a day when we took office because the Health Connector had basically been broken for a couple years. It's currently going through open enrollment, went through open enrollment last year. It's covering more people than it was covering at any point prior to the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And for hundreds of thousands of people in Massachusetts, it works. But it didn't for quite a while. And again, it's not a big, sexy news story. The grind that people went through fixing literally hundreds of technology and business process and customer service issues, and just sticking with it every single day with a big, long list. They were just pounding their way through one after another, after another, after another. For all those people who needed the Health Connector to work, many of whom really relied on that because they didn't have access, in most cases, to health care insurance through their employers, and they didn't qualify, in some cases, for the expanded Medicaid program. These are working people. It's a big deal when you fix something like that. Doesn't get a lot of attention, but the folks who work there, they did a great job. Which brings me to my final point. Most of the time, the folks who work in government don't get a heck of a lot of credit for what goes right, whatever it might be. We get enormous credit when something goes wrong. The mayor knows that as well as anybody, and so does the president of the Board of Aldermen, right? That's what elections are for. But that is, in many ways, where the joy and the satisfaction in public service comes from. It's those places and spaces and those opportunities where somebody says to you, what you did really mattered. And I'll give you two recent examples for us. Bridgewater State Hospital. Terrible place. For years. For years. It never got fixed. For reasons that I will never understand. We put together a group and started grinding on this one literally during the transition. And it took us 2 years to basically work our way through all the barriers and obstacles that have made this one so hard to get done for so long. We got a professional clinical team in there, completely changed the programming model, worked out an arrangement with the correctional officers that worked for them, that got them outside the facility, mostly working the perimeter and not being inside. And the Globe actually wrote a beautiful story about it. It was on the front page about, well, I could tell you the date, but then that would show you how many times I've read it. But I was at a picnic in Central Mass, just shaking hands and taking pictures with people. And this woman comes walking up to me. She says, I drove here from North Andover. And I said, that's great, thanks, I appreciate that, that's far. And she said, you know why I drove here? I said, no, why? She said, I got a son at Bridgewater. And what you guys did at Bridgewater changed his life and changed mine. And I just wanted to come here and personally say thank you. And the other thing I hear about from people all the time are the moms and dads and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters whose families are wrapped up in the opioid epidemic. I hear terrible stories about this from people. Stories that break your heart, break mine. Which is why we've been so aggressive about putting together a program on prevention, education, treatment, and recovery on this. But then every once in a while, somebody comes up to me and says, you know that program you guys started? I got my son into it. He's been clean for almost a year. And then they cry. Because that battle in particular is so brutal, so hard, so difficult. I say this all the time. Dealing with addiction is all about guts and grit and bravery and courage on the part of everybody who's involved in it. And they deserve our love and support, not our scorn. No one grew up saying, I want to be addicted to heroin or alcohol. And when you work on that stuff, and people say things like that to you, that what you were doing actually mattered and made a difference, it's kind of like nourishment for the days when people tell you all the things you're doing wrong. Here in Massachusetts, people respect this work, whether they're independents, Republicans, or Democrats. And I spent a lot of time in every part of the Commonwealth, so I can speak to that one with some degree of authority. And I know that the people here in this community do too, having spent enough time talking to people who are part of this community. But I'm really grateful that I live and work in a state where this whole idea of service and this whole idea that it's okay to agree and disagree and recognize and understand that that's all part of the big game people had in mind when they set this whole thing up in the first place is a good thing. And I really look forward to coming back here and cutting some ribbons on that GLX project. God bless.
And now it's my pleasure to give the 2017 Powder House Award for Excellence in Economic Development to the most popular governor in America.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate this. I have a couple more events I have to go to because, well, you know, 2018 started today.
Pleasure to welcome our presenting sponsor, Bunker Hill Community College, and here to represent the college, Provost and Vice President James Caniff.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Great to be here with you in Somerville. At Bunker Hill Community College, we take the word community in our title very seriously. And of course, Somerville is part of our community, part of our service area. And each year, we participate in this event, as well as we participate with the school district and a number of other organizations in Somerville. Let me take just a second to introduce the folks at our table. The first one I want to introduce is Somerville's own Ron Bonney, who was a former trustee at Bunker Hill Community College and now is a member of the Bunker Hill Community College Foundation. Ron Bonney, stand up. They all know you anyway, Ron. Dr. Alice Murillo, who is Associate Provost of our Chelsea campus. Alice? Brooke Yarborough works in our media department, and you will see the video in just a few moments that Brooke worked on. Thank you. Nori Chandler-Smith, Dean of Academic Support and Pathways Programs. Nori is the person who develops all of our partnerships with high schools and with community-based organizations. We have over 70 such partnerships. Next, we have Austin Mirasolo, who is Assistant Dean for Academic Affairs. And last but not least is our Chief Financial Officer and Vice President for Administration and Finance, John Pitcher. So just a few words about Bunker Hill. We are the largest community college of the 15 in Massachusetts. We are the most diverse. 68% of our students are from diverse backgrounds. We have about 950 international students. The largest single country that they come from this year, the largest one is China, and the second largest is Vietnam. I get asked that question quite a bit. So we have just under 13,000 students. The largest program we have is our Liberal Arts and Science Transfer Program, about 4,000 students. Students who come to Bunker Hill Community College know they want to transfer to a four-year college and come here and do that. The second largest program is our business program. All of our finance and marketing and entrepreneurship and accounting, very popular. What's happening also, though, is in the same way that's happening around the Commonwealth, is the STEM fields. For example, our engineering science program 3 years ago had about 215 students in it. Today, fall 17, it has over 450 students in our engineering science program. Another program that's growing is computer science. Same kind of time span, started with 139 students, we're up to 461 students. We have over 95 associate degree and certificate programs. We're concerned about providing access to students, and it's so wonderful that we're on the orange line, because that's where most of our students come to us, our faculty. I use the orange line, so it's wonderful, but it provides an access that's very important to Bunker Hill Community College. We continue also to form partnerships in the workforce area. For example, we have a partnership that is going to be beginning in Somerville. It is with the Somerville Community Corporation Culinary Arts Job Training Program. This program will begin in January, and students will be taking 14 credits in culinary courses. That's about half of our certificate program, but it will make those students job ready when they successfully complete it. So we're very proud of that program and very proud of the partnership. And that's what makes working with Somerville so important to Bunker Hill. You'll see in this video in just a moment a little more information about how many students actually from Somerville attend Bunker Hill Community College and how to graduate. Now, who's helping me with setting this video up? Somebody, Brooke, who's doing?
With our two main campuses in House County and Chelsea, in addition to 3 satellite campuses and several instructional centers throughout the greater Boston area, BHCC offers a wide range of learning options to suit the diverse needs of our student body. BHCC offers more than 100 academic programs, including associate degree programs, certificate programs, and programs designed to allow students to complete their first 2 years of a bachelor's degree before transferring to a 4-year university. Our dedicated faculty and counselors are here to help students achieve their personal, academic, and career goals. BHCC is proud to serve the Somerville community. Between the fall of 2012 and the fall of 2017, 3,822 Somerville residents walked through our doors, and this fall, we have 843 students from the Somerville community earning credits. Of these students, 453 received a federal Pell Grant to attend college. 52 graduates of Somerville High School's class of 2017 enrolled at BHCC this fall, studying biology, business, criminal justice, psychology, liberal arts, and more. At Bunker Hill Community College, we appreciate Somerville being a part of our BHCC community and look forward to continued success.
And we are very proud of our work with Somerville and proud of the students and the residents that you send to us to complete their education, to move to new careers, to transfer to a four-year college, whatever it may be. We are thankful for this partnership, and we want to continue to work with the city of Somerville to grow this partnership even more. Thank you very much. One last thing, Mayor, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And with that, I would like to introduce our newly re-elected and also now bionic mayor, Joe Curtatone.
Thanks, Rod. You know, I have no courageous story to tell you why I've injured my arm. And I've had 3 weeks to come up with one. The bottom line is I fell. That's it. And it'll get better, but I'll look like this for a little bit of time. Well, good evening. It's great to see you all. I want to thank Steve Mackey and Rod and the entire Chamber of Commerce. It's great to be here with all of you. I actually got my wife Nancy to come with me. Nancy, it must be your first chamber dinner in all these years. Second? Second. Well, she has a tougher job helping to raise our 4 boys. But again, it's hard to believe another year's gone by, and so much has happened. I want to give another round of applause and thank you to someone who's been a very good friend to the city of Somerville, and that's Governor Charlie Baker and his administration. Let's give him a round. You know, I really look forward to this event every year to celebrate Somerville's business community and all that it's accomplished and contributed to the success of this city. But before I really dig in, I also do want to say thank you to everyone who's offered up congratulations, support for yesterday's victory. It was great. I mean, we had a great, fantastic turnout for a local election. Good for Somerville. That's great to see. Good for Somerville. And our voters made a commanding statement, not just about what they feel, how the direction the city's going in endorsing it, but they also made a strong statement and challenged us to work together to take on some of the critical hurdles the city has to overcome and the region has to overcome, especially around affordability. We'll talk about that. You know, we celebrated last night, but we've already gotten our sleeves rolled up and gone right back to work. But I do want to take a moment to step back and thank some incredible public officials, incumbents who weren't reelected but deserved to be recognized. You know, first he had decided to move on and retire from office as Ward 4 Alderman Tony LaFuente. I want to thank Alderman at Large Jack Conley, Alderman at Large Dennis Sullivan, Ward 3 Alderman Bob McWaters, and Ward 2 Alderman Marion Houston. Let's give them a round of applause. But I do want to also welcome, and it's an exciting time for change. You know, I was 22 years ago, I remember coming to this event, and Bill, you did it 20 years ago, as we were newly elected members of the Board of Aldermen. The Chamber invited us to a dinner. And that's when Tom Bent and Steve Mackey first started yelling at us, and still yell at us. But, you know, I know what it feels like, exciting to be part of that change, and we want to welcome to the Board of Aldermen from Ward 4, Jesse Klingon, from Ward 2, J.T. Scott, from Ward 3, Ben Muin-Campen, and the Alderman at Large, Stephanie Hirsch, and Will Mumba. Let's welcome them all to the Board of Aldermen. We'll be seeing them in the future. We'll work together with them. You know, it's our obligation to work together, and our commitment to delivering on our goals for our residents and businesses is unwavering, and we know there's a lot to do. And I'm looking forward again to working with the new faces and the new energy on the board as we strive towards those shared goals, because we all own those challenges and those opportunities. Now, as many of you already know, we're making real progress here in Somerville. Somerville's changing, and we're making progress around our summer vision goals, our comprehensive plan, particularly around job creation and business development. After very little job growth for 20 years, from the period of 1991 to 2010, where the job growth rate of the city was pretty much flatlined, things have really taken off, and we've worked alongside development and business partners like all of you in this room to add more than 6,000 jobs since 2011 in this city, and that's fantastic. Our labor force is quickly growing, and we're continuing to boast one of the lowest unemployment rates in Massachusetts. We just need to make sure that that unemployment rate means that people are staying in the city, working here, frequenting the shops and local business district. Somerville continues to strive to be a business-friendly city, and we'll always do that. And we're seeing it pay off with the growing network of new businesses that are helping to strengthen the financial well-being in the city and increase our commercial tax base. You know, we welcomed 247 net new businesses from fiscal year 13 to fiscal year 15. Think about that. Coming out of the deepest abyss of the Great Recession, and we started to create new businesses, working together as a community, as stakeholders. We added in 2016 alone 108 new businesses. And that, again, represents just a 5.9% increase in 1 year alone. And over the past 7 years, we've seen a meals tax revenue increase to a whopping 337%, while the hotels tax revenue increased by 144%. That's fantastic. We want to continue to see that growing. And to top it all off, Moody's recently raised the city's bond rating from the highest ever rating of AA2 to a new high of AA1, one below AAA. And that's important. The second highest rating on the agency scale, really citing specifically 7 consecutive years of assessed value growth, including 13.1% in fiscal 2017 growth. That represents the third largest increase of any municipality in the Commonwealth during that time. And there are other attributing factors, you know, which include the city's healthy financial position, strong financial practices, and conservative budget management. My good friend Bill White likes that part. A robust and growing economy, a diverse tax base, and healthy reserves. Somerville's economy, make no mistake, it is thriving. But it's important to note that we didn't just magically end up here. It's not something that my administration or any mayor could accomplish alone. It's everyone in this community, every stakeholder. It's everyone in this room. It's the members of the Board of Aldermen. We worked hard together for a long time, hand in hand with you, our local businesses, along with our residents and community partners, to lay the groundwork for the excitement we've seen this year and the opportunity that's to come really in the not-so-distant future. And I love it when the governor talked about celebrating the holidays with ribbon cuttings. That's what we like to hear. And we really pushed the envelope and stepped outside the box in the realm of economic development initiatives this year. We were finally able to get new zoning passed for Union Square, giving our master developers US2 a critical implementation tool to make their plan come to life and realize the neighborhood revitalization plan that the community assembled. And a few weeks ago, we celebrated the relocation of right-hand robotics, which matured out and grew out, evolved out of Greentown Labs to the old post office. Thank you, Emily Reichert. Really, that marked the first new commercial tenants in the new Union Square. We launched the Somerville Innovation and Opportunity Lab that seeks to establish relationships with entrepreneurs and innovative businesses here in the city and aims to support our development and goals. And in July, we worked with the Chamber. We hosted the city's first ever public-private partnership showcase. We're behind the curve here in the Commonwealth when it comes to triple Ps or P3s. There are places across the country and around the world that are utilizing P3 delivery method to really tackle mounting infrastructure needs and other priorities in a way that's creative and really mutually beneficial for all the parties involved. And while P3s aren't common practice in the Commonwealth yet, you know, Somerville's not afraid to step out and be abnormal, as we like to say, and lead the way on this exploration. But Governor Baker's team, you know, I did mention them, has been a great partner to our administration, our city, in exploring innovative ideas and ways to unlock the potential of P3s. So these examples represent just a small snapshot of what we've taken on this year, oftentimes with you helping us to lead the way. And of course, we have a lot more coming down the pike. With workforce development resources set to increase thanks to the jobs linkage payments, and I thank the Chamber for their support on that. We are increasing our efforts to prepare Somerville's job seekers for the jobs that your businesses are or will be providing by creating a first-of-its-kind municipal workforce development strategic plan. The plan will allow us, Somerville, to think locally about how a city like ours that's part of a larger metropolitan region can really take responsibility and ownership for its workforce, attract more resources, and create sustainable and effective and resilient workforce training delivery systems. And speaking of preparing and training present and future job seekers, preparations for the new Somerville High School are already underway and set to ramp up in January of 2018. And after years of stops and starts, and decades actually, as you heard the governor allude to, I will come out and say that the Green Line extension is at the precipice, beyond the precipice of becoming a tangible reality. And when the Governor Baker took office, I do have to say this again, he could have done the politically easy thing for a project that we didn't mismanage, but that was owed to us legally, that was running $1 billion over projected budget, and scrapped it. But he didn't. He could have easily walked away. But he saw the importance of the Green Line extension to not just Somerville, but the region and the state. The Green Line extension helps bring a net new 30,000 jobs to the region. The Green Line extension creates more than 10,000 units of housing in a region that needs 435,000 units by 2040. The Green Line extension, for those of you who don't live in Somerville, adds more than $3 billion in net new economic opportunity and activity to the Commonwealth over the next 2 decades. It more than pays for itself. It is the best real transit project on the books. That's why the Obama administration gave us over $1 billion to make it happen, and it needs to happen, especially when we live in the 6th most congested region in the country. And congestion is not only a liability to our health, our environment, it is an economic development killer. The Green Line extension, hopefully, is the model for how the Commonwealth should invest and understand how if we connect mobility and transportation infrastructure investment with a housing plan and a workforce development plan, we can unlock incredible opportunity for everyone in this Commonwealth, in this region. So stay tuned over the next month, because we're going to have a big party when it happens. And the relaunched Davis Square neighborhood planning process was well underway, and of course I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the work around the new citywide zoning. I know we've been doing this for a while, Tom, but we're going to push it hard. We have an opportunity here in Somerville to pass the most progressive zoning ordinance to be found anywhere in this country. Something really capable of shaping the future of this city in alignment with our shared community values. And we're committed to working with everybody in this room and in this community, our residents and the Board of Aldermen, to get it done. As you can see, there's never a shortage of projects or initiatives going on or progress being made. And that's what's great about Somerville. And I can't say enough times, this progress and success we're seeing in the city would be absolutely would not be possible without each and every one of you. And so much of what we do is intertwined, even if it's not always obvious. We would not be able to attract more businesses or push forward on our transportation, infrastructure, zoning, and other needs if it weren't for you and your advocacy and your successes. Beyond the tangibles, we actually look to our business community for inspiration around growth, adaptability, and leadership. You in this room help grow this economy. You are essential to Somerville and its livelihood, and your contributions are not only appreciated, but also immeasurable. But it's important to say that our challenges are profound. We are in a housing crisis in this region. The opportunity, giving someone an authentic opportunity to rent or buy a home in Somerville or the metropolitan Boston region is a fleeting reality. And we need to roll up our sleeves and not dance around the edges any longer. We need a bold plan for Somerville. And as we're working with the governor's administration, we need a bold plan for the region. And we need to connect that plan, again, with transportation and with the workforce development plan. If we don't, the region will fall behind the other metro regions in the world. If we don't, we're going to concentrate poverty more intensely and more remotely. That's the challenge before us. And I look forward to working with all of you in this room and this community and my colleagues to get it done. But let me just say, congratulations to all of our businesses, particularly those receiving awards tonight. I'm honored to be here once again. It's great to be here following another election victory. I hope to be here for a few more of those. And just celebrate with you what we've accomplished together. Be proud of this city, because I think it is a model for the rest of the country, not just about what we're building, but about who we are. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephen Mackey. I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce. It's my privilege to work with all of you and others throughout the course of the year, every day, along the agenda of the Chamber, much reflected by Mayor Curtatone, not only tonight, but over the years, led by his vision and his extraordinary staff, which we have over here from the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development. Michael Glavin, Director. It's, as the mayor said, there are challenges. The biggest challenge, I believe, has come about over almost a 20-year period. We talked a lot about economic development, and we worked a long time with the city and others to try to bring it along and bring transit to this city. It was all about what it was about, economic development, ultimately to lead to some economic justice. And economic justice is a whole bundle of things that have to do with the quality of our lives. If you live in a city, you have to have housing that can be afforded. You have to be able to have a reasonable way to get to work and get about. You have to have clean streets and a park for kids to play in. And you need a school system that can help your kids grow and compete. It's a whole bundle of things: housing, workforce development, education, public safety, public parks, etc. And what happens now is when everyone sees that Somerville is getting its transit and getting its due in terms of participating in the greater Boston economy, now, from their own perspective, what challenge can we meet? And it's not about meeting any one challenge, whether it's about affordable housing or workforce development or public safety, etc. It's about balance in meeting all of those things. What the business community is a central player in is helping to bring about a balanced urban quality of life that everyone can enjoy. The wealthy and the refugee. The person in technology or the person in basic labor position. It's about anybody who wants to live in an urban area being able to come to a place and be welcomed and find the opportunity in what we always like to call an American way. There's a lot of issues that are going on at the national level. Some of it is real distraction, but some of the core issues come home to roost at the local level. And it's really at the local level where government is closest to people and can be the most responsive. And what we need to do is work with that government and those leaders to help point things in the right direction and help balance all of the needs and help balance the idea that we're going to do exciting things, we're going to get the transit, we're going to have these economic inputs increase greatly. But at the same time, we have to figure out how do we apply them to best serve the whole quality of life here in Somerville, and to make sure that we don't press on the gas too fast and too soon and too much, that the economic justice has to be synchronized with the economic development. And that will be a message over the next year that I think you'll be hearing again and again from the Chamber. In the meantime, we hope to continue to bring you a full array of networking opportunities to help you bring you together. We try to keep you informed about it through our weekly news and events on the website. And we have a cable television show with the inimitable Mernesa Rivera Bajosa hosting Talking Business. We have our Business After Hours series led by Dana Jacopucci. Our annual golf tournament, Golf Classic, led by Richard Brenner. Taste of Somerville by our Dining and Nightlife Chair Morgan Bigley and David Flanagan. We do the Business Town Meeting, thanks to Jess Willis at the Rockwell. We've done now, can you believe it, 12 Business Town meetings with Mayor Curtatone. We had Government Affairs breakfast with Mike Capuano this year. All the time, the Holiday Inn being the best host you could ask for, always being there to help the business community, including when we put on the Next Innovation Center, a recent forum where we brought in regional experts to talk to people about local issues having to do with development. We supported last year the $256 million bonding for the new high school. We've been participating in as many as we can, meetings relative to the Innerbelt, Broadway, Davis Square, Assembly Square, and particularly Union Square. And Union Square right now is front and center, and we'll be looking in the next couple of months for your support in help explaining and expressing the key idea that we get this economic development going in Union Square and not wait or delay any longer, because we want ultimately to be able to satisfy those economic justice desires. So we'll be continuing to try to serve you. As always, please pick up the phone, shoot us an email, anything that we can do for you, anything you think you'd like to suggest in the larger picture in terms of economic development, economic justice, public policy, please let us know. Congratulations to you on a great year. The strength of the Chamber of Commerce is its membership. We know that every day. We learn that more every day. So I thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you especially to the Holiday Inn for the great service. Thank you. Now, my favorite part of the dinner is every year when Don Hughes comes up here and as the chair of the Nomination and Awards Committee, presents Don Hughes of Riverside Community Care.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening, everyone. Come on. You can do better than that. Good evening, everyone. Somebody wake up Isaac Machado over there. I think he was nodding off. Before we get started with the award presentation, I'd like to thank my fellow members from the Powder House Awards Committee, Ryan Burkhart, Mary Casesso, Ben Holmes, shout out for Mary, Emily Reichart, Paula Vancini, and Rod Lorenz. The Chamber's awards are named after Somerville's famous old powder house, which was originally a windmill, a business, built around 1703, back when Somerville was still part of Charlestown. As I'm sure you are all aware, this year Somerville is celebrating its 175th anniversary of our separation from Charlestown. Somerville has a rich and storied past, a thriving and vibrant present, and I believe a very bright future. I've lived in Somerville for only 34 of the 175-year history, but the changes and progress I have seen and enjoyed in our city over the last 3+ decades have been truly astounding. This positive growth and development has been possible because of the work of all of you, our business leaders and our political leaders, and I want to thank all of you. These awards tonight give us an opportunity to celebrate the accomplishments of some of your business peers and colleagues. We should also acknowledge the ongoing hard work and leadership of our Chamber CEO, Stephen Mackey, and Board Chair Rod Lorenz this year and many years before. Thank you, guys. And over the last 14 years, Somerville has seen accelerated business growth and development, thanks in no small measure to the vision, support, and leadership of our newly re-elected mayor, Joe Curtatone. And in my mind, we are fortunate that he will continue at the helm. And I just want to say, given what is happening at a national level, as a Somerville resident, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership and political courage over this past year. And one more thing, Mr. Mayor. As a Somerville resident, I want to thank you for not tweeting us at 4 a.m. in your bathrobe. Thank you very much. And now on to the awards. Rod, you can come up and help me? All right. The first award is for excellence in public service. Nancy Elward is not able to join us this evening, and she will be presenting her award at another time. But for the record, Nancy worked at City Hall for 27 years. As executive assistant, she greeted visitors and fielded phone calls and emails from residents and businesses. In the course of her career, she probably, at one time or another, dealt with an issue involving every citizen and every business of Somerville. Whatever the issue was, a beginner question, constituent request, customer complaint, or a crisis situation, it would receive Nancy's undivided attention. Few people in government or business found as many answers, satisfied as many requests, or solved as many problems as Nancy. So for many, the quickest way to an answer or the solution was just call Nancy. The Powder House Award for Excellence in Public Service goes to Nancy Elward. Would Morgan Bigley please come up to the stage? Highland Kitchen has been a part of the Somerville restaurant scene for almost 10 years and serves up some of the finest food in the city. Morgan Bigley has been a part of the local restaurant industry for the past 17 years and is now in his 5th year as general manager of Highland Kitchen while also overseeing the East Coast Grill. For the past 3 years, Morgan has been serving as the Chamber's Dining and Nightlife Chair. A major responsibility of that post is helping to organize, promote, and manage the Taste of Somerville. Under his leadership and through his television appearances, radio interviews, and social media articles, the Taste has grown into a fabulous Greater Somerville event featuring our finest dining and nightlife establishments, serving over 1,500 guests and raising more than $60,000 for local charities. Morgan's even disposition, intelligent management, and refreshing sense of humor helps it all happen and makes it a pleasure. In appreciation for operating an outstanding restaurant and bar and being so supportive of the Taste of Somerville, the Powder House Award for Excellence in Dining and Nightlife goes to Highland Kitchen and Morgan Bigley. Would Larry Venezia please join me at the podium? Larry Venezia has over 40 years of banking and lending experience. At Rockland Trust, he is primarily responsible for new business development of commercial and industrial lending. In the short time that Larry has served on the Chamber Board of Directors, he has become an integral part of the Chamber. As Membership Committee Chair, Larry has been the catalyst for a regular membership survey, a new automated billing and payment processing system, a revised dues investment schedule, and new membership retention and growth initiatives. The Membership Committee is an active, thoughtful, efficient, and effective part of the Chamber, thanks to Larry's leadership. Please join me in congratulating Larry on being the Powder House Award recipient this year for distinguished service to the Chamber. Would Evan Battinelli please come up to the stage? For over 25 years, Evelyn Battinelli has served as the volunteer executive director of the Somerville Museum. She manages the museum's collections, hosts a busy calendar of lectures and concerts, partners with the city departments to present educational events and celebration, and works with the Somerville schools, seniors, and nonprofit groups. Working with local historians, curators, and artists, she has helped present award-winning exhibitions including Lost Theaters of Somerville, Lifting the Veil, Remembering the Burning of the Ursuline Convent, The Highway in the City, Investigating the History of I-93 in Somerville, Immigrant Dreams and Realities in Somerville, and The Vietnam Experience. Somerville High School students explore Somerville during the Vietnam era, and she's a very brave woman for tackling that side of the stage. She is an encyclopedia of the museum's collection and local history. Her knowledge, warmth, and enthusiasm welcomes everyone to discover and explore the arts, history, and culture of Somerville. The Powder House Award for Distinguished Service to the Community and Beyond goes to Evelyn Badinelli of the Somerville Museum. I would suggest you go that way.
Yeah, there's no steps over here.
Would Lindsay Smythe please come to the stage? All right, Lindsay. The Boys and Girls Club's mission is to inspire and enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to become productive, responsible, and caring citizens. For many years, this organization took a very wide-angle view of its service area. For 15 years, it was the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middlesex County. The population of Middlesex County is larger than some states. In 2016, the clubs have returned to a name that demonstrates a long-term commitment to the local youth here, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Medford and Somerville. Locally, the Boys and Girls Clubs provide a safe place to learn and grow, ongoing relationships with caring adult professionals. Let me know if Rod's going to knock me over with anything at some point during this. Life-enhancing programs and character development experiences, and most importantly, hope and opportunity. Every day after school, Boys and Girls Clubs provide education, prevention, and recreation programs. From character and citizenship programs that help youth become responsible, caring citizens and acquire skills for participating in the democratic process, to arts, sports, fitness, and recreation programs that help youth develop healthy lifestyles, a positive use of leisure time, reduction of stress, and appreciation for the environment, the Boys and Girls Clubs can and do make a difference. The Powder House Award for the Nonprofit of the Year goes to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Medford and Somerville, accepting Executive Director Lindsay Smythe. Would Adea Souza please join us at the podium? Brazil Insurance Agency of Union Square provides great asset protection, services, and financial planning assistance to families and business owners throughout the Boston metropolitan region. Brazil Insurance has been a major sponsor of the Fluff Festival, that madcap, fun-filled festival that draws 15,000 people and is one of the reasons why Somerville was named one of the U.S.'s top travel destinations for 2017. The agency's founder, owner, and executive manager, Adea Souza, serves as treasurer of Union Square Main Street and is an active member of the Brazilian Presbyterian Church of Boston in Somerville. Brazil Insurance is joining with Respond, Inc. for a charity event aimed at assisting local domestic violence survivors. Respond has worked with families and children in the greater Boston area for more than 40 years, providing comfort and respite to those seeking shelter from domestic violence. This charity event will draw in support for the community at large, bolstering the efforts of the Respond team and ensuring that the shelter is able to continue providing services to abuse victims. This charity event kicks off a new relationship for Brazil Insurance, as the firm is now an active member of the Agents of Change, a national charity support group. As ongoing members of this group, the Brazil team plans to find and work with new charities frequently. The Powder House Award for Business Neighbor of the Year goes to Brazil Insurance, with owner Adea Souza accepting. And well deserved. Would Ryan Dings please come to the stage? SunWealth is a pioneering, tech-driven clean energy investment firm determined to unleash the power of commercial solar. Through its proprietary investment platform, which dramatically simplifies the investment process, SunWealth delivers exceptional returns and meaningful impact to a growing community of investors. The SunWealth Solar Impact Fund brings together high-performing commercial solar projects owned and managed by SunWealth into project pools. Each pool includes a socially diverse set of projects that deliver clean energy to creditworthy power purchasers and offer excellent returns to SunWealth investors. SunWealth's community of investors benefit from simple, transparent investments. Investors always know exactly which projects they are financing and the quantifiable impacts of those projects without sacrificing financial performance. They are currently doing their first project in Somerville on the rooftop of Greentown Labs. That's awesome. When I called, don't go anywhere, Ryan.
That's okay.
When I called Ryan to tell him he was getting the award, he told me that they had started at Greentown Labs and they had just moved into a new space in Davis Square because they were committed to growing and keeping their business in Somerville. So thank you. Could I please have J.T. Hargrove join us at the podium? Somerville is a full-service bicycle shop created by two seasoned mechanics striving to become a positive environment of integrity and community to Somerville and Greater Boston. Involved in all facets of the cycling world, their goal is to build a stronger cycling hub in the heart of Union Square. Somerville offers personal experience, dependability, and accessibility unique to the bicycle shop world. Years of shared experience among friends, professionals, and locals alike have cultivated their reputation for quality service, affordable pricing, and a love for bikes, people who ride them, and their stories. They take the time to speak with everyone about their services. They hope that each visitor who leaves their shop leaves so with the same expertise that they have about the bikes that they love to work on. They're a friendly, casual bike shop that still takes their work very seriously, giving their best service available. The Powder House Award for Small Business of the Year goes to Somerville, with J.T. Hargrove accepting. I always think this is very exciting, just the diversity of businesses that we have here in Somerville and the folks we get to acknowledge. So let's have one more round of applause for this year's awardees. I'm now going to turn it back over to Rod Lorenz to present the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Thanks, Don, and thanks again for all the work of the committee, and congratulations to all the recipients. The last, and it is the most important, sorry everybody else, but the Lifetime Achievement Award, the John W. Fitzgerald Lifetime Achievement Award, named after the co-founder and first chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Also the founder and first chief executive of family-owned Ames Safety Envelope Company, now Ames Business Park. It's as important to Somerville and the life and businesses going on as it ever was now. Our recipient is the founder and CEO of Gentle Giant Moving Company, Larry O'Toole. Larry is focused on developing leaders, expanding award-winning service across the country, and having a meaningful impact on the communities Gentle Giant serves. Early in his career, he was an engineer at Eaton Corporation. He quit his job to escape the corporate life, pursue writing interests, and explore his entrepreneurial side. While preparing to start a light manufacturing company and not wanting to dig in his personal savings, Larry rented his roommate's van and started performing moves around Boston. Before long, offering quality moving services became a passion, and Gentle Giant was born. Larry's life as a rower has taught him to be competitive, disciplined, and persistent. Larry is a creative problem solver and is always willing to step in and complete difficult moves with enthusiasm. Outside work, Larry tends to his extensive collection of rare mint condition moving boxes. And we'll now have a brief video with excerpts from Gentle Giant's Moving Pictures Library.
My name is Larry O'Toole. I'm the president of Gentle Giant Moving Company.
He's taken his life's work, essentially, and we really do provide a great service. We are the best at what we do.
I would have drowned if it hadn't been for Gentle Giant and the wonderful team that looked after me.
I personally run with every single new employee because I want to make sure that they're made out of the right stuff.
There's so many X factors that can go into our day-to-day jobs that you want to be with people who have been tested by fire before.
The reason people were so thrilled with the work we did was because they had often received very subpar service in the past. So they were absolutely amazed to see movers working at such a high level. From the beginning, we prioritized taking care of our employees. If you don't put your employees first, they won't put the customer first. It's that simple.
What I love about working here is just the teamwork, and to be honest, I just love the sense of a job well done that we get when the customers are just happy and shaking my hand at the end of the day. And that starts between respect from the top down to the employees respecting one another, and then we go out and respect the customers.
We follow up with every single customer to make sure they are happy. It's our goal to change the face of moving in America, to be able to give guaranteed service to anyone who's moving locally or interstate anywhere in the country. We will always do the little bit extra. We'll always go the extra mile for our customer.
To you, thank you.
As Larry makes his way up here, I'd also like to say I had the pleasure of rowing in the Gentle Giant rowing club down on the Pleasure. What is the the Mystic. What's the boathouse called?
Blessings in the Bay.
Blessing of the Bay Boathouse. It's been a long time now, and it was very early in the morning. And the chamber actually had a rowing team a couple of years, and so that was a good time. And got to know Gracio's here, I think, this evening, and Al. So, they do support so many wonderful charities and events and everything around here. The good work that Gentle Giant does is another reason why they deserve to be recognized. So thank you, Larry. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rod. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Somerville. I want to go back to the beginning. When I first started out in Ireland in my first class, and I was introduced to Brother Fox. And they, the Christian brothers in Ireland, prided themselves in being able to prepare kids for a successful life and being able to give you an idea of what you were going to achieve. So, in short order, I was subjected to my first achievement test. And actually, I have here what it was. It was a blank sheet of paper. And so all of us 60 boys were told to fold it. Now, if we had time, I could have all of you go through this exercise, and then I would be able to really see what you were capable of achieving. So anyway, it was folded and folded several times, and when we were done, it looked, he wanted us to have something that looked like this. And as he went around the class and spoke to each of the boys, he said, "Oh, very nice job. You've made a beautiful butterfly." And then he came to me and he said, "What's this?" And he brought it around to the class and he said, "Well, you've all made a beautiful butterfly, but Mr. O'Toole has made a dog's breakfast." And coming over to me, he said, "I'm sorry, O'Toole, you'll never achieve anything." Well, I'm going to Ireland in a couple of weeks, and I think I'll pay a visit to Brother Fox's nursing home and say, "Guess what? You were wrong about me." So anyway, fast forward, leaving my engineering job and trying to start another business and doing a bit of moving on the side and finding something that I truly loved. Hard physical labor brought me back to my roots working on my grandfather's farm. And then I found myself back in Ireland talking to my grandfather. His daughter, my mom, is here today. Thank you for everything, Mom. And so I was talking to my grandfather, and we called him Dadden. And I said, "Dadden, I don't know about the engineering." I said, "I'm starting a moving business, and I think maybe that might be a better idea." And he said, "Well, if you do decide to do that, remember, the most important thing you're ever going to do is the first person you hire. Because the first person you hire is going to have to meet all of your standards. And that's the way it's going to have to be after that with each additional person that you hire. Because if you make a mistake and you hire the wrong people, well, let me put it to you this way. It's like this. If you piss in your soup, you'll not get it out. And so I followed that advice over the years in bringing in great people. But the first person I hired, and the greatest person I hired, and the person from whom I've learned the most, is here today. An old rowing buddy from college, Stephen Rudy Leonard. Rudy, stand up. He has been at my shoulder through this entire experience, and I've learned so much from him. You know, when you're out on a really tough moving job, where everything is hard, it's pouring rain, the customers in a complete frazzle, and it's just everything's going wrong, and you're starting to get a little bit upset. And then you realize you're with Rudy, and he's having fun, and he's laughing, and pretty soon you're enjoying yourself. And that's what Gentle Giant is all about. Because we have learned everything from Rudy about our core values, which exemplify everything that exemplifies Rudy. At Gentle Giant, we have the giant heart, where every letter in the word heart stands for something that's absolutely core to our beliefs. Honesty, enthusiasm, going above and beyond, respect, and teamwork. And if I didn't have all that to begin with, I sure had it after working with Rudy. And everybody that's come into the company has learned from him and what we're all about. We're all about honesty, enthusiasm, going above and beyond for our customers, respect, and great teamwork. You know, here I am receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. But the only thing I've really achieved is I've brought a bunch of great people together. Wonderful people. People I'm so proud to be with every day. People who make each other great. All I did was bring them together. And you know, and it's when you do something like that and you form a leadership team, well, you sort of have people that'll stand up and tell you to sit down and shut up, you're full of it. And it's great to be surrounded by people that, you know, are leaders and are willing to speak truth to power and make great decisions and make me proud. Although sometimes they elbow me out of the way, but that's okay. Also, over the years, it's been great to be able to give back to the community. And I take a special pride in sponsoring the Gentle Giant Rowing Club, as Rod referred to it earlier, where young people from Somerville and surrounding communities are able to take part in a life-changing experience that really puts them in a position to have great lives going forward, where they learn how to develop trust, where they learn how to be accountable for their actions, and where they learn what it truly means to be great human beings and to be truly a part of a great team, where you've got everyone's back and they've got yours. And I'd like Gracio Garcia and Al Gahant, who run the boathouse, to stand up. You guys are incredible. I've also been incredibly fortunate in my life to have met my wife, Joan Karpinski, who defines what it truly is to be supportive. And I feel supported every day in every decision I've made. You know, she's talked me out of some bad decisions. And some other decisions, bad decisions I made, she wasn't able to talk me out of. But you know what? She supported me anyway. She's always been there for me. I love you, Joan. Thank you for everything. And thank you from the bottom of my heart to my wonderful mother and everything you've given me over the years. Thank you so much, Mom. Now, I was told I had to speak for the same amount of time as Charlie Baker. I don't know if I can quite make it. I'll do my best. But I want to thank all the other great people that are here. My partner, John Pazoka, who's been with me from near the very beginning and who helps to make sure that everything at Gentle Giant runs like clockwork. Thank you so much, JP. And for all the other wonderful people that are here tonight and that work for my company, and thank you, Somerville, for the recognition. It's really appreciated. And we at Gentle Giant will continue to go out there and knock them dead. Thank you all very much.
You forgot your butterfly.
If anyone wants a dog's breakfast, it's right up here.
Oh, actually, that's yours. Yeah. Thanks again and congratulations, Larry. Thanks everyone for coming. I'd like to thank Jim Harvey and Lou Carrier of the Holiday Inn for your wonderful hospitality as always. All of the staff for the wonderful service. And Stephen Mackey got to say a few words, but again, thanks for pulling all this stuff together and keeping the chamber going and and all the work doing this. And Joanne Haley, she hates attention, but over here in the corner. I think that's about it. They're the centerpieces, again, were sponsored, so you can choose among your table if someone would like to take those home. Congratulations, everybody. Thanks for coming, and have a lovely and safe evening.